Hey everybody, this is Tulip.
And this is Cassidy.
And you are joining us for another episode of The Good News, the Gospel According to AMC's Preacher. It's been a while. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I think by the time we finish this season, we will be straight into season 2.
At the rate we are going, I think there's a very good chance. But people can go back and listen to these first seminal episodes and be so impressed.
You know, that's actually what I did with the Biters podcast.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So I binge listened. So it's all good.
Right on. So today we are podcasting, let's see, Sundowner, which it's episode 5, right? I mean, it's 6 if you count it in, if you count the pilot.
Episode 0 as episode 1.
Okay.
Sundowner is episode 5.
Oh my god, so confusing. Anyway, let's see, the original air date was July 3rd. And what did you think? How did you rate this one?
I really liked this episode. This is another episode that started off with a bang and ended with a boom. And there was actually not a lot of lag in the middle with this one like there had been with my other good ones. So if I can go straight into a rating, I would probably give it a 4.8 dismembered seraphins.
Wow, you rated it really high.
I did. The rest of the season is probably going to lag for me, and then that last episode is probably going to be like a 6 out of 5.
So I rated it really high too, and I thought I was thought we were going to be on, but you were a little more generous than me. I rated it a 4 out of 5. Unwelcomed and unforeseen consequences.
Oh, yes. Yes, I did not have a lot of bad to say about this episode, and that unforeseen consequences was one of my goods, so.
Yeah, no, this whole episode was great, and, you know, in retrospect, I probably could have rated it higher. I really liked this one, too.
I did, too, and, you know, we were saying off recording that it's been like a week and a half since I watched it, so I was actually just reviewing it here, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this was that episode.
I had my niece up for a visit and got her caught up to where we are with Preacher. So, and she loves it. She's totally obsessed with it too.
Good. Maybe we have, you know, listener number 3.
We do, because she asked me to bookmark the podcast for her. So yes, in fact, we have a new listener. Hey, Caitlin.
Hey, Caitlin.
Love you. So I looked up the numbers for this week, and I was actually able to find the DVR ratings as well as the same day rating, which is really nice because that kind of illuminates things a little more, I think.
Where are you getting the ratings from?
I think it's tvratings.com.
Okay.
I think that's where I found them this time.
Okay, because you were having a problem with
Biters. I know.
Biters Fear the Walking Dead, and I couldn't find the +3. I could only find the +7s on stuff, so...
So send me the website, will you? Because I do find that finding the ratings for things can be a struggle.
You know, and I actually, where I found them too, had, you know, what it's up against. It basically had the ratings for everything that, you know, like on Sundays or whenever, whatever you're looking for airs. And
was it Variety by any chance?
No. Oh. I think it was TV dot something. Yeah. So, yeah, when you were talking about Biters, the other podcast that you're on, you guys were up against one of the Kardashian shows, and it came in second. I'm like, really? Thankfully, Fear the Walking Dead came in first that night, but one of the Kardashian shows is Rob and China.
I've got to tell you, man, not to get too distracted about The Walking Dead, but the episode just before this one for Fear was really, truly my favorite Fear episode.
Yes.
So...
Yes.
But wow, I would have to say this Preacher episode for me, pretty close to the pilot.
Yeah, they are really, really bringing it. So I have a lot of high hopes for the continuation of the series. And, you know, we were just right before this, we were just watching, upcoming shows for this season for all of the channels, and my Chromecasting actually went into the next thing on YouTube, and it was actually the upcoming shows for last year, which Preacher was one of them, and they actually revealed something in it that I didn't realize that they had revealed. Like,
is it something we already know, or
no? Yeah, it's something that I knew from the comics. And it was one of those where it's like kind of like, how are they gonna do that and stay on budget? So
cool.
We can talk off air on that one, but I didn't realize it was revealed anywhere because this was the only place that I had seen it, and it was actually something, and was like, this is upcoming, for 2016, and so yeah, that's really interesting that they are going to go in that direction.
Very cool.
Dun dun dun.
So our numbers, just to give them a real quick rundown, live plus same day viewing was 1.5 million. Not so hot. We had an 84% increase in live plus 3. So it went up to 2.8 million when you took live plus 3 into account. So I apologize. I think I misspoke and said I also had live plus 7. I had live plus same day and live plus 3.
I was talking about live plus 7, but to kind of give a comparison, that's the episode of Fear the Walking Dead that I was just looking at was the same thing. It was I think 1.5, and then the plus 7 was 1.1. So it's on par with the other AMC shows, kind of, aside from
Walking Dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aside from Walking Dead proper, which just continues to blow things out of the water.
So, that puts it at number 1 in its time slot. So, not doing too shabby. Room for improvement.
And all I can say is I hope people figure it out. I hope that they fall in love with it, because it's such a smart and funny show. I really found myself just laughing out loud throughout the bulk of this particular episode. It was just, there were so many moments that were so great.
There really, really were. This was a really good episode, and it just, a lot of the characters are finally starting to sort of come into their character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're learning a lot more too.
So this is Sundowner. I mean, it's obviously a reference to the hotel.
Right.
Some other things that I thought about. So Cassidy is kind of a sundowner, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also a phrase that we often use with elderly people who are demented. They have sundowner syndrome, so their dementia gets worse at night.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out exactly what they're saying with this, other than just making a reference to the hotel.
I kind of want to say that sundowning means that, the darkness is coming.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so briefly talk about the end of the episode when whatever happens to Eugene.
Right.
Preacher tells him to go to hell, and poof, he disappears.
Right.
So did he really go to hell, And so the darkness could be coming. I don't know if I think we talked about it in episode 1 or 2, where in the comic book, Eugene is kind of a bad guy.
Right.
And we talked about, like, how could this just eternally sympathetic character be evil? And I don't know, to spend some time in hell, and you might not be a nice guy when you come back. So,
well, I've got to tell you, not to put too fine a point on it, but this was the first episode I really found myself not liking Jesse. I mean,
yes.
When he has a mean streak, when you open up that mean streak, man, it is ugly.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the old Jesse shining through.
Yeah, you are a bad, bad man, Jesse Custer.
That was a really good impression. And it's not even just that, some of the old Jesse comes out. It's that he's so cocky right now.
Yes.
He's... Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and Jesse has some absolute power going on.
And he's getting absolutely corrupt.
Yeah. This is what we had talked about previously. If you had the power of the word, what would you do with it? And ultimately, I think anybody who is truly good would do nothing with it. I mean, at this
Right.
point, you would return it to the angels, because just a slip of the tongue, and things go horribly wrong, or even something totally well intentioned can turn out, open your heart to her.
Although I have to say, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but if I had to turn my power, for lack of a better description, over to Fior, DeBlanc, and Susan, I would have to think twice.
Yeah, that's sort of letting the clowns run the show, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So,
Yeah.
just some quick stuff on the writer and the director. The writer was a guy named Nick Town, and I really didn't find very much on him. He worked on Preacher and Deadwood, and he did some miscellaneous crew responsibilities on Deadwood, and that was all I found. And then this was kind of cool. So the director was Guillermo Navarro, and he's got huge credits on the flip side.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, so he's got cinematography credits for Pan's Labyrinth, Pacific Rim, Jackie Brown,
Yeah, of course.
Hellboy 1 and 2, Preacher, or
Yep.
sorry, not Preacher, Twilight 1 and 2. I just kind of cherry picked the stuff
How
that
did
he
you
had.
say his name?
Guillermo Navarro.
I thought it was Guillermo del Toro.
No, this is actually Guillermo Navarro.
Okay.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro. Jeez. Somebody take me back to Spanish 101, which I never took. Guillermo del Toro does have credits with Pan's Labyrinth, if I remember correctly. But this person who directed Preacher has cinematography credits on all those films. His director credits are TV credits only.
Okay.
So he's got credits for Preacher, Sleepy Hollow, Narcos, which is a series that I've heard stuff about, but I haven't watched it.
Yep.
Damien, which is the series that was spawned from the Omen movies. And then Hannibal, which was from the Hannibal Lecter movies.
Which is, if you've never watched it,
I have not.
For the cinematography alone, I haven't finished it. I think we got through season 1. The cinematography alone is just visually stunning.
Wow.
I mean, it's very creative and artistic. I mean, it's really dark and gory and sick and twisted,
Sure,
but
because it's Hannibal.
it's beautiful in a grotesque sort of way.
Well, and it goes back to that problem that I've talked with Brian and Todd about quite a bit, and I think you and I have talked about it too. There's just so much good TV. There's only a certain amount of time, and when you have a busy life outside of podcasting a couple of TV shows.
Yeah, and they're really getting big on releasing teasers and stuff for upcoming stuff this coming year. What's new to TV, and I was secretly sort of satisfied. It was very abysmal. I mean, there was like maybe 3 out of 10 shows that I was like, yeah, I'd totally watch that. You know.
I have to tell you, Luke Cage.
Oh, I'm so excited for that.
I really am excited about that because I loved Jessica Jones so much, and I'm so looking forward to season 2 of Jessica Jones.
Me too.
So there's some good stuff.
The end of 2017, and like Doctor Who doesn't come back until 2017, and I'm just like, what is a 20? There was something else that doesn't come back till 2017, and I'm like, 2017 is going to be like a banner year for stuff that I have been eagerly awaiting for. Now I know how gamers feel about like the games that keep getting delayed. Oh.
Now, what brand of tape are you using to hold the bridge of your glasses together?
Well, I do have to tell you, and we keep going back to biters. I was just thinking today how the current episode of Fear looked so much like some of the zombie games that are currently out.
I can see that.
Or currently have some really good expansion packs that have made it fun to play again. So
right on.
I don't play, but I actually enjoy watching them. So, that's just more time in front of the TV that I need. But I absolutely love being the navigator for my other half through all the zombie games. So
that's super funny. I have to admit, we have a zombie game for the Xbox that I haven't even opened yet. So one of these days when I find that I have more time on my hands, maybe once we're snowed in, I don't know.
you snowed in and you can't get can't get your internet or something. I don't know. Most things need to connect to the internet nowadays anyway.
Yeah, you can download them onto the gaming system. So.
Okay, you don't have to play them live. We have Xbox Live, so yeah.
So now once again we're completely diverging.
Yeah.
So our featured cast member, we kind of talked back and forth, and there were a bunch of people who kind of really stood out, but we agreed that Emily should be our featured cast member this week.
Yes, we did. And I have to tell you now that I did not do my due diligence on her like I did because I completely forgot. Like I said, it's been like a week and a half.
Hey, it's totally okay. Life interferes sometimes.
It does.
So,
it does.
Emily Woodrow is played by a gal named Lucy Griffiths, and she's another Brit.
Of course.
You wouldn't know it listening to her, but she actually was born in Brighton, England, on October 10th, 1986. And her, the stuff that I saw that she really had a long-term participation in actually looked like it was a British production of Robin Hood. And she played Marion from 2006 to 2009.
Oh, well, I knew her from True Blood.
Okay, and I was going to say she had a recurrent role on True Blood, which I am embarrassed to say I am not up on True Blood. I watched a little bit of it, but I didn't watch the whole thing.
Well, I read all the books, so
yeah.
I watched the show, but of course, like most things that go to TV that are based on a book or a novel or comic books,
sure, there's source
started
material
off
and
like true to the source material, and then just completely diverged, thereafter. But yeah, that's really the only thing that I knew her from.
Well, it looks like she had a small spot in Constantine, which I've heard is quite good, which is ironic, because there's some relationship between Constantine and Preacher.
Right.
And then it also looks like she's got a movie in post-production right now called Dara Ju, or Dara Yu. I'm not sure how to say it. So she's, just like a couple of other people that we've seen from Preacher, she's kind of cranking up. Things are heating up for her a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Which she really does an amazing job on the show. And for so many Brits, I really think that the reason why all of these shows on AMC are kind of set in the South is because I have heard that for at least British people, it is easiest to mimic a Southern accent than it is I guess, Northern accent, or what I would call no accent.
Right. There's actually a strong linguistic relationship between British accents and Southern accents.
Right. So I think that's probably why we're all so shocked to hear these actors and actresses speak in person. It's like, wow, you're British.
So who have we got? We've got Dominic Cooper, who is Jesse. He's a Brit. Mm-hmm. The gal who plays Tulip, her name escapes me right now. Ruth Negga.
Ruth Negga.
Yeah. And then the guy who plays Cassidy, obviously.
Yeah, those are the real obvious ones. And Cassidy's actually Irish?
Cassidy's Irish.
Scott or Irish?
Cassidy is Irish, but I believe that the actor is a Brit, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I believe he's English.
Okay.
So...
Huh.
And then,
all of the other AMC shows.
I was just going to say, Walking Dead is populated by Brits.
Yeah, so. And you got a few Australians smattered in there.
Right.
Yeah. I did notice that she did not have an interview on AMC, so we're kind of relying on the rest of the internet. I really liked it when I was able to pull some tidbits, because they would specifically comment on their characters when I could get interviews on AMC.
She may be someone that they were waiting to evolve that character. Maybe we'll see some things out of that actress next season, because I'll be very surprised if she's not with us to next season. So, right. So tell me your good news. Tell me your gospel.
Where to begin? I mean, pretty much the beginning and the end. I mean...
That is so funny, because that's exactly what I have.
How could you not? I mean, we begin... I mean, We actually began in the. I even forgot that we began in
The diner.
the diner.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I'm like, I totally skipped over that part in my brain, and we're at the hotel chopping up seraphim bodies right and left.
Well, but the cool thing is, I mean, the first time I watched this episode, I was like, wait a minute. 3/4 of that happened in the cold open. 3/4 of that happened before they even started rolling the credits.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's right. It was a cold open. I didn't even remember that.
It's amazing. I mean, I really think that AMC has perfected the art of the cold open, definitely with Walking Dead. So I always kind of enjoy looking at the different things that people do with this as a vehicle for telling the story. And the fact that they told a huge portion of this story, including the reveal about Genesis,
Right.
in the cold open,
Right.
was amazing.
Yeah. I just this was a huge opening, and I really didn't think they could top it. And right at the very last second of
They
the
sure
show,
did.
they did.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, still talking about the opening, I feel so sorry for Cassidy. He has got to dig so many holes in that desert.
And
I mean, how many Fuhrer and DeBlanc bodies did he have to? Like 4
know.
previously?
Oh my gosh.
Not only are there like 30 Seraphim bodies, but there's probably a dozen or so Fuhrer and DeBlanc bodies.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about this series of scenes was just watching those bodies pile up.
Yeah, and at the end you just see bodies everywhere.
It was, and blood.
And I absolutely love that like they have to die. They can't be knocked out
Right.
to regenerate. They have to die. So
Right, so watching
Fiora
Fiora bonk DeBlanc on the head.
yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome.
And Fiora was the one who wielded the chainsaw to cut up the Seraphim bodies, so I was like, wow, he truly is a sociopath.
Yeah.
I mean, DeBlanc at least kind of shows some warmth. I mean, he keeps saying, well, I'll just sing it out when he's talking about Genesis, but Fiora's all about, no, let's just cut it out.
Yeah. And I love that Seraphim, well, I mean, they all sort of, sometimes they'll regenerate in place, or
Right.
sometimes they'll be like 20 feet away. So everyone's like, where is she? Where is she? Where is she?
And I gotta say, the flying tackle, beautiful.
Yes. And Cassidy sauntering in
Yes, his poorly timed.
and killing her and then being like, what?
I just did you guys a big favor. Oh, I guess not. But it looks like it was Cassidy who ultimately took her down.
Well, and, you know, the only thing that bugged me about this was how many times did DeBlanc, Fior, and Seraphim die?
Right.
Jesse and Cassidy managed to walk away with bruises. Like, how did that happen?
Well, you know, we are talking about Jesse and Cassidy after all.
Yeah.
I liked the way that Jesse played it with the Seraphim saying, you know, it only takes you a second to dial, but you have to look away.
I don't remember that.
So he kind of shoves the heaven phone over at her and says, you know, you can call and you can tell people where you are.
Oh, that's right.
You can dial, but you have to look away.
Right.
And that's when he was able to get the upper hand, as it were.
Yep. And you like the look on her face was just like, ah, crap, he's got a point.
Well, you know, and the other thing that I really liked about this, just as a woman, was watching a female character give as good as she got.
Yeah, and you know, that's one of the things specifically about AMC shows, but the one thing about Preacher is strong female leads. I mean, you know, Tulip and Emily, you know.
Yeah, Emily was great in this episode.
Yeah. So, of course, Seraphim is, you know, a woman and can take on 2 angels and 2 other guys and only die twice as much.
Well, I had to look at what Seraphim were because I was trying to think about, you know, what her relationship to the heavenly host was in comparison to Fiora and DeBlanc. And it turns out that Seraphim are, I want to say, second in the rank of 9. Yeah, they're the highest order of the ninefold celestial hierarchy. So they are the angels of the angels.
Ah.
And so she was one of the most powerful angels coming after them because apparently they're not supposed to be out of heaven.
Right. So somebody knows that they're gone.
Right. And I thought it was so interesting the way that they were describing Genesis, as this horrible shame, and nobody wants anybody else to know, and I thought Jesse was so funny. So you mean it's a baby? And they were like, yeah. Where they say if you mean the most powerful thing ever to live is a baby, then yeah.
Well, he does have a point.
Yeah.
They're acting like it's some sort of creature that needs to be, chained into the basement. And really, it's just a baby.
Well, and so the other thing that I thought was interesting, and this kind of goes back to what I said earlier, is that, Fjord said we're its custodians. And again, I felt like Fjord was kind of reluctantly locked into this whole thing. And I feel like DeBlanc has some true affection for Genesis.
Yes.
And so it's going to be interesting to see if that plays out to be true or not.
Well, he's the one that sings to him.
Right. That's what I was totally thinking, too. By the way, how do you know the lullaby Wink and Blink and a Nod? I didn't know it until this series.
Okay, to be real, the movie version of Dennis the Menace.
Oh my god, how funny. Ah!
Mrs. Wilson reads Dennis the Menace, Wink and Blink and a Nod at bedtime.
Oh my god, that is hilarious.
Isn't that? Yeah, that's kind of dating me right there, because that was probably early 90s that I watched that.
So here I thought you had some piece of childhood that I didn't have.
No. Television taught me everything I know.
Oh my god, that is so funny. All right, so the other good news was the end. So let's move on to discuss that. So... both
amazing, heart-wrenching, and shocking.
Yes, I quite agree. So, to recap for the listeners, Jesse just gets beyond frustrated with Eugene because Eugene is saying, take this gift back, I don't want it. And I thought the thing that was really cool is I think he recognized what you and I discussed, which is that Mrs. Loach has been forced to forgive him, and she really has not.
Right. And I could actually see it. Like, I felt like I could see it when Jesse told her that she has to forgive him.
Yeah,
and when Jesse told Quinn Cannon that he must believe
God.
or serve God. Like, you can see them fighting it behind their eyes, and they just can't fight it. It's too powerful. And so I think that Eugene recognizes that it's not a true forgiveness. It is not coming from Mrs. Loach.
Well, and that's exactly what I thought as well. And I was glad to see that recognition because that was something that bothered me right away. And so, I could really understand where Eugene was coming from as a character. And then for Jesse to just get so mean. And I think it's that he felt really challenged. And
challenged, and he was also they were setting up for what was it, over 200 parishioners,
right?
So
and I love that
Emily very stressed.
Yeah, and Emily just thrust Jesse right in his lap to get back at him.
Yeah.
But it was a mean side of Jesse that I had never seen. I mean, we knew he enjoyed fighting Donnie and his crew and breaking Donnie's arm. We saw that, but this is a different level of cruelty.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's cruelty.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes beyond meanness or spitefulness or any of that. It is just plain cruelty.
Yeah, his verbal abuse of Eugene was tantamount to Eugene's father saying, "I wish you'd just finish the job already." Mm-hmm. So for people who may not know what we're talking about, and we hope you do, because God knows it's been out there for a few months. So Jesse finally loses patience with Eugene and says, "Eugene, go to hell," and he disappears.
Yep.
And the transition to those charred corpses.
Yeah,
from the Green Acres group, that was a great transition. At first, I really thought we were seeing Eugene in hell.
Yeah. That was obviously very deliberate, because I think that's what we all kind of flashed on.
Yeah. And, you know, I have to say, one of the nice things about Preacher, technically, is that they've had several transitions like that in the series, where it just punctuates what you've just finished looking at perfectly.
Mm-hmm. And a couple of AMC shows, like Fear the Walking Dead, just did it, too, with a certain balcony scene.
We'll have to talk offline about that, because I don't know what you're talking about. But they did do a really cool montage that highlighted Madison's face in different ways, which I forgot to mention for the latest episode. But
Funny.
now, back on Preacher, because we could talk all night, and I really can't. So what was your Job? What was your sad or difficult thing for this episode? Aside from Eugene.
I'm really upset at Tulip. After I'm totally on the Tulip train.
Yeah,
but
except don't you feel so sorry for Cassidy?
Well, no, I absolutely love Tulip, except for that she is trying to force Jesse into doing what she wants to do, not what he wants to do. And so she goes out and sleeps with Cassidy for probably nefarious reasons,
right.
I suspect, you know, whether it's she wants to be turned into a vampire or she wants the help of a vampire and, you know, to her own end. And then she has the gall to march into...
To storm into Emily's house. Yeah.
And say, stay away from my boyfriend. What's that all about?
So there's a couple of things that really struck me about Tulip in this episode. I mean, one is that I really was heartbroken with the way that she used Cassidy, because that scene in the broom closet at the church, you can just see the devastation on Cassidy's face.
Yeah.
But the other thing that was so interesting was you could tell by the exchange between Tulip and Emily when they finally started talking. When Tulip came back and was like, "Oh, I'll fix the art thing."
Yeah.
She actually envies Emily's life, and Emily envies her life. They almost wish they had swapped places.
Yes.
Because, you know, Emily's all like, "Oh, your car is so great. I love your car." And Tulip's like, "I'll take care of her. I'll give her juice. I'll read to her. I'll whatever." You know, so...
Well, and we've previously seen that Tulip is very good with kids, and we've had the inkling that there was the death of a child.
Well, and she actually called Carlos a child killer.
Yeah.
So in this episode, she says, "I had a child," and I don't know about you, but just looking at how long she's been in Jesse's life, it's obviously Jesse's kid.
Right. And what else would cause Jesse to leave his life of crime in the rearview mirror and go back to, you know, Anvil, Texas, to be the preacher at his father's decrepit church?
Right? I don't know. I mean, it could be more than the loss of a child, or it could, I don't want to say just, but it could just be the loss of the child. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think you're right, though. I think they do sort of envy each other's. And don't we all sort of all,
Sure.
you know? Yeah.
Sometimes you look at somebody else's life and you're like, man, if I just had that situation.
Yeah, the Real Housewives of Alaska up here are...
Oh my God, are you serious? Really?
No. I'm talking about you and me.
Oh, okay.
we would love to be Tulip. Every woman wants to be Tulip, you know. And, you know, Tulip wants to have a family and a house and, you know...
So you totally scared me that there was another horrible Alaska reality show that I didn't know about.
No, the Housewives of Alaska would be amazing.
Oh my God.
Because we have, like, jobs and no Botox and farm animals, and we do our dog's physical therapy in glacial water.
Oh, I would totally nominate my horse trainer because she's amazing. And I would totally nominate my friend Corinne, who is the toughest Alaskan I know, and she's Swiss.
The Real Housewives of Alaska needs to be a thing.
Yeah, it does. So, AMC, if you're listening, we've got your next hit.
Yeah. Call us.
So the other thing that really struck me about Tulip in this episode, kind of keeping on your Job, there were times when the camera really focused in on her while she was talking to Emily, while she was talking about her child. Her eyes kind of looked like there were deep circles, and her age showed a little more than Emily's did. And so when you look at the two of them side by side, Emily looks really young and innocent, and Tulip is beautiful, but she looks tired.
Yeah, there's a really good line from another show that I love. She has a feral beauty.
Yes, that's a perfect way to describe her.
Yeah, and it's a little weathered, it's a little dark, it's there, but it's not the sweet, innocent, church-going Emily. Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So my Job was kind of in keeping with what we talked about at the end of the episode, but it was just Jesse's ego. I agree that cocky was a word that I would apply, overconfidence a word that I would apply. We just really saw the ugly side of Jesse. I mean, it's all, he just seems so greedy and so much about, he has a savior complex. I'm going to save this town. But he said a really interesting thing. I'm going to save this town and fulfill my obligation, and then I'll be free. Or fulfill my promise, and then I'll be free. So I'm thinking it's his promise to his dad. Yes.
And I think we did we flash it on this episode, or was it a previous episode that his dad made him promise?
Right. It was actually in the premiere. He says several times, "Promise me, Jesse, there's more than this."
Okay.
And then Tulip also makes reference to it. She's like, that promise you made is a boy's promise. You're a man. So I really think that, Jesse is, part of this is ego, and he loves having the power, but another part of it is he's really hoping that he'll fulfill his promise to his dad and be free to be Jesse.
But what does fulfilling the promise to his dad actually mean? I mean, what's the end game there? Does he convert the entire town and make it Pleasantville or Stepford? I mean...
I don't know, because I think we have to see what happened to his dad, why it happened, and exactly what form the promise took. I mean, I think this goes back to, really being careful about your words and careful about your intention, because you and I could totally be thinking that his promise is one thing, but the way that he actually spoke it to his dad may set him up for something entirely different.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and Genesis is associated with going back to the beginning. Genesis is the first book in the Bible, and so we have to go back to the beginning to find out, oh
my God, I didn't even think about that. That's so perfect. And that kind of leads right into my book of Revelation. So I'm really excited that they stuck with the original story of Genesis. They were very true to what the story in the comic book was.
Right.
They weren't quite as graphic, but they stuck very closely to that story. And then I loved Jesse's defiance in the face of Fior and DeBlanc.
Yeah.
Well, I'm keeping it. God's just going to have to come get it from me if he wants it. It's mine.
Well, and he believes that God wants him to have it. He said that
does.
He made a reference to that effect at some point where, he thinks that God sent it to him. God wants him to have this power. It had gone into all of these other religious figures and it didn't work out. And so, Jesse is the perfect vessel.
Right. And I thought it was really interesting that Jesse said, "Why me?" and they said, "We don't know," because I still stick with my original interpretation, which is that Jesse is just that right mix of corrupt, charlatan, and good and evil, that he's the right place for Genesis to land.
Yeah, he's a questioning believer. He's not just a blind follower.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your revelation?
I don't know if this is a revelation or not, but I'm entirely perplexed about what we saw in Eugene's universe pre-going to hell.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I am too.
Yeah, what is with all of a sudden these young guys having an interest in him, and being nice to him. Because when he approached that like sewer openings, basically a dark cavernous, yeah, I was just like, something awful is going to be inside there.
I
or
thought so too.
Like, lead him in there and taunt him, or just my heart hurt for him at that moment. And when they wound up having, no malintent, I was just like, I still don't believe it. What's going on?
Right, because every time those boys made an overture to him, I thought, what's the ulterior motive?
Right.
I still don't entirely understand what the fireworks or the sparklers represented. I will tell you my theory.
Sundowning, light in the darkness?
Possibly. So, we watched Eugene descend into the darkness, right? A lot of myths, and I'm thinking specifically of the myth of Inanna, who is a Sumerian goddess, rebirth happens after the descent into darkness. So, maybe that is somehow Eugene coming back to himself, because it's before he says, oh, it's beautiful, when he's watching the sparklers.
That's right.
And then that is right before he goes to Jesse and says, I don't want this, take it back.
That's right.
So I don't know. That was one of the things that I was thinking as I was watching him descend into that dark cave.
Well, and so that kind of reminded me of something not quite so poetic or elegant.
Come on, you're usually the one who's coming up with that stuff.
The movie Legend, Tim Curry, Tom Cruise,
Mia Sara.
At the end, Darkness says, before he's cast out, Darkness says there is no light without darkness. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, and my love for the graphic novel Sandman. I've been looking at different quotes made by Morpheus, different things that were said by Morpheus, and one of the things that I really like that I just read is, without dreams, there would be no despair.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's,
But are we going to, was this just kind of a setting Eugene up for fail because of the end of the episode? Because what was the point of putting in just a little bit of joy in his life? Are these boys going to come back? Is he going to come back and these boys are going to become his gang? Or, I don't know what that little interlude with him and the previously, Mean Boys was.
Maybe the whole point is that he got to taste some dreams before he started to experience despair.
Oh,
I don't know.
So hard.
I don't know. It's going to be so interesting to see. I can hardly wait.
How are they ever going to make this kid the evil that he is supposed to be? Because I just feel so much for him. I have all the feelings for him.
And maybe the thing is he won't necessarily be truly evil, but he'll just be a conflicted mess like the rest of us.
Right.
Because when you look at it, Tulip is not conflicted. Tulip wants revenge. Jesse is not conflicted. Jesse has power, and he wants to use that power for his own ends.
Cassidy's not conflicted. He just wants drugs.
He just wants pleasure. Yeah.
So are we going through all of the sins now? Are we going through all of the 7 deadly sins? We should see if we can match him to character.
Oh my gosh, that is a great idea. That's your task for
That's
next time.
Homework assignment.
So is there anything from the Word that you just wanted to look at? Any other things that we didn't cover that that you really wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. I think that about sums it up. There were no weird little rooms with dials or vents that sprung open. There was nothing nothing hinky in this, other than 36 bodies in a hotel room.
Right. Well, and a bunch of bodies in a charcoaled out bus at the end.
Yes, the executives from Green Acres met a horrible end. They were in a terrible car crash. Where are the bullets?
Well, you know,
they
it
them out?
took Miles out of Fairly Harmless and Good into someone who also has conflict.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
you know, one of the things that I did notice that I thought I would bring up is that when Tulip comes into Emily's house and breaks the sculpture that Emily's child had made and storms out, there is a scene very shortly thereafter where Emily is down with a brush and a dustpan and she's cleaning up the broken sculpture. And I wrote to myself, Emily is always cleaning up Jesse's mess.
Yeah.
Because even this was Jesse's mess.
Yep, that is a really great point of symbolism.
And then for him to turn around and be thanking her and Tulip for putting together his Sunday, oh, that was just a blow to her heart.
Yeah.
Another thing that really hit me is that we had the return of the sign.
That's right. You don't have to go home, but you can't pray here.
Yes, I thought that was so funny.
Yes, that I don't know how they're going to keep that one going because like there's just only so many funny things you can come up with in a week, but that's hilarious.
I thought of you as soon as we saw the sign. I was like, oh, there we go.
Yep. I'm really disappointed in them that they haven't worked it into every single show. But like I said, I sympathize with how difficult it is to be clever all of the damn time.
Right. Sometimes it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So another thing that I looked at that I really wanted to find deeper symbolism in, and I was really kind of struggling, is Jesse's tattoo, which I've looked at, you know, since the first episode where they kind of showed it. So a horseshoe is good luck. A horseshoe that is turned with the
opening up
holds your good luck.
Yes.
You know, the sheriff's star, which is what his horseshoe is superimposed over, is good luck. And then there's a skull in the middle. So I'm not really sure what exactly... I don't know. Maybe it's that balance of light and dark. I don't know.
Numbers, too.
Are there numbers, too?
Yeah, I could only see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then it had E and Q.
I saw a Q on Cassidy. And I saw numbers on Cassidy.
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's why I wrote it down.
And you know what? I actually looked at Cass's tattoos and I was like, okay, those are Joseph Gilgan's tattoos. They're just finding a way to write them into the story.
Right. That's what it was. I was trying to observe tattoos, but
yeah, me too. Yeah, and of course the tulip tattoo. Do you think Cassidy realized then?
No.
You don't. Nope. You don't think he was like, oh God, when Jesse said that's my tulip?
No. I don't know why it didn't, but the scene in the closet, it was just you could see it click there.
Ah, okay. I mean, I certainly didn't think he had the despair in the scene with Jesse that he did in the closet. So
no, and you have to remember the scene with Jesse is when they're both like cleaning off all of the blood from Seraphim.
Right.
Yeah, so
yeah, and they're once again just having one of those. They have those really funny chats where they like will bring something up and they disagree, but they discuss things passionately, and that's kind of what that was. Right.
They have their bromance moments,
right?
Like when they first met. Yeah, when they first met in the bar and then in jail. What kind of preacher are you?
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing that I'll say, and then I'll let it go, is that I thought it was really funny that the little parallel. So Emily says to Tulip, well, do you want a beer? And Tulip's like, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And then Jesse says to Cassidy, well, you want a beer? And Cassidy's like, well, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. And then they're swigging beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That was funny, and it really did surprise me that you know
that Tulip turned it down.
Yeah,
me too.
I could just see her, you know, having beer with her eggs and toast in the morning.
Yep, I could too. That was kind of a surprise that she turned it down.
Know, tequila with her waffles.
Hey, I want you to know that tequila and scotch on the rocks relatively low in calories. That's how Ruth Nega keeps that wonderful figure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I think that's it for me.
The only thing that I have left is numerological Bible study hour with Marnell.
And
It's still not a lot. I mean, we started out strong this season, and we've kind of petered out. Not a lot of. The only things that I noticed was, of course, Fjord de Blanker in room 114, and we've already gone over that number, and it's in symbolism, and it really that can't be a coincidence.
right.
We saw
That was the word of God, right?
Right. We
Yeah.
saw over their shoulders rooms 113 and 110, and they could have stayed in 113 because Psalms 113, praise the Lord, you are his servants, praise his name of the Lord.
Oh
Let
my
the name of the Lord be praised.
God.
Yeah, they're servants. Yeah, the Lord's servants. So they could have stayed in room 113 and still had the symbolism. 110, not a lot. Sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet. So, I mean, I guess they could have kicked back and put their feet up on the pile of seraphim body parts.
Well, I kind of feel like that's apropos considering all of the carnage that occurred.
Right. The only other number that stood out was the 200 programs that they had to fold up.
Oh, so what's that? What's that number significant?
The symbolical meaning of 200 in the Bible is insufficiency. A man named Achan, seeing among the spoils of Jericho 200 shekels of silver and other goods, takes them in spite of the Lord's command not to do so. Joshua finds out about the theft after finding the goods in Achan's tent, has him stoned to death. This teaches us the insufficiency of money to save someone from the consequences of their sin.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the Bible, blah, blah, blah. This shows the insufficiency of a man-made religion to please God. So,
well, that's kind of interesting. I mean,
Yeah,
considering the false construct under which Jesse is laboring.
Right. That passage is found in relation to another 200 shekels that's melted down and turned into an idol. And so it's the false idols worship. So insufficiency of a man-made religion to please God.
Are you sure you're not writing for Seth Rogen?
I'm really, like I said, everything that they can control in the show
Is
cannot
not throwaway.
Yeah.
Yep.
So those are the only ones that stood out. They're not quite as on the nose as some of the others this season, but I don't think that they're throwaway. So thus ends numerological Bible study.
Well, Laddie, I think that I need to fall off a roof or a ledge balcony and go to hospital and fall in love.
Go count some sheep or some goats. I know you only have 3 of them, but they can go in circles.
No, we only have 2.
2?
You're making up goats. All right. Well, on that note, we will see you next week.
See you next week.
All right. Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Left his body